what is self-inquiry? How is it done? How does it work? Why doesn't it work sometimes? And what makes a successful practice? Now, to answer all these particular facets, I want to explain first how Bhagavan saw the mind and how he thought it should be eliminated, because that's what self-inquiry really is. He said that all of your thoughts, all of your perceptions, all of your memories, all of your ideas, they're all an outgrowth or a predicate on one primal thought, which he called the I thought. This I is the equivalent of a string in a necklace. It's the thread that runs through every single idea, thought, perception that you have. And he said this I is the subject. It's yourself. Everything that the I thinks or perceives is an object. So I see a tree. I is the subject. The tree is an object. I feel angry. I is the subject. The emotion, anger, is the object. He said that your attention is continually on the objects that you, the subject I, are seeing, feeling, and perceiving. And he said because your attention is always on objects rather than subjects, you never become aware of the true nature of what this subject is. And very interestingly, he said this subject I that you never look at is in fact a fiction. It's a false association. It arises from an idea that I am a person, I have a mind, I live inside a particular body, I do things, I remember things. He said that idea is absolutely wrong, and he said it's what causes you suffering, it's what makes you have wrong ideas about yourself, about the world. And he said every single wrong idea you have about yourself, about the world, about God, stems from this idea that you are a person inhabiting a body and having a mind. And he said this sense of personal identity, which he called the I thought, needs to be challenged. And it needs to be challenged repeatedly, regularly, on a moment-to-moment basis. So he said, because your attention is always on things that are not the I, the objects of your attention, the objects that you remember, believe, perceive, you never look at yourself to see what it is that is thinking your thoughts and perceiving your perceptions. He said that's where your focus needs to be. You're not looking at things that you want to study, things that you want to know. You're actually looking at the entity within you which thinks your thoughts and which perceives your perceptions. He said, what is this thing inside you that is aware of your thoughts? What is this thing inside you that claims it's perceiving objects outside of yourself? He said it's not something that ever comes under scrutiny, because we're all obsessed with a continuous flow of objects, remembered objects, perceived objects, the thought objects. He said what we need to do to find out the nature of this sense of individual identity is to be continuously aware of this one inner entity, this one inner thing that associates and identifies with all the things that it thinks and perceives. He called it the I thought, but I prefer, I is a bit of a loaded word, because if you tell people to start looking for their I or start focusing on their I, then they create another object. They think, oh, my I is up here or it's down here, and then they start focusing on an idea called the I. What I would suggest to people they do is look at themselves and be continuously aware. What is it inside yourself that thinks your thoughts when you have a thought? What is it inside yourself that perceives a perception when you see something? That is your I. That is your sense of individual identity. Now, this isn't simply a question of looking at something and understanding what it is, because what Bhagavan says is this thing that correlates, organizes all your thoughts, all your perceptions, isn't actually a real entity. It continues to apparently be there because it's never looked at properly. He said if you can hold on to this sense of I, this thing that thinks your thoughts, and not be distracted by any passing thought objects, this I will very, very slowly start to subside. And he said, if you can keep attention on this inner feeling, this thing that thinks my thoughts, without allowing it to escape and think any more thoughts, he says it will go back to its source and ultimately it will disappear. And that disappearance will reveal to you who you really are. So what he's saying in effect is that there is a false entity, something that has taken control of your life, which you call I, myself, my mind, which organizes and correlates all the perceptions, the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts, the beliefs. If you can cut that I off from all those things, hold on incessantly onto this inner awareness, the I that has these perceptions, that I starts to sink and finally it will disappear. The analogy I like the best is Bhagavan said in one of his dialogues, he said, imagine it's the shirt of a man and his dog picks up the scent of that shirt. The dog can put its nose on the ground and follow that scent back to the original owner of that shirt. So this really is what the I thought is all about. The I thought is, it's not the real self, it's not who you really are, but by absolutely focusing intently on that thing within you, which has all these thoughts, you picked up its scent and you're following it back to its source. And if you keep your metaphorical nose to this I thought and follow it back to its source, it goes back to the self, it goes back to the heart, and it disappears.